Before I start my presentation, I would like to ask a question. When was your one last touch with nature? Till I was being introduced to a generation of forest stewards, it kind of stirred up one of my best childhood memories when my parents used to bring me to the forest, wandering around for hours. In my own little world, I perceive nature as something sacred, and I always deeply touched by all of the nature of wonders. Who are the batik, and why do they matter? Other than they are considered one of the oldest nomadic inhabitants in Malaysia that are currently facing global extinction, they are also amongst the most neglected community that does not recognize their sovereignty. As a nomadic hunter-gatherer who have a strong emotional relationship with nature, relocations to forest fringe has made them lost the way of life. We often talk about environmental impact, but what about the cost of damaged emotional environmental relationship with nature? A very good morning to all of you. My name is Yang Hui-Chi, and today I would like to present my project named Paradox Unity, a cultural meditative experiencing center for the Batik tribes in Kuala Kor, Kelantan. The site was located in Kuala Kor, and the terrain is frequently encrusted with myth, legends, and religious perceptions. It's not only the spiritual, forest for them is their only world. It's not only their physical provider for their, it also emotional and spiritual fulfillment for themselves. In Batik people eye of view, it's also a dwelling place for other than human beings who frequently become enraged and dangerous if the sites are being polluted or destroyed. Therefore, it can be said that Batik emotional environment is in sign with their landscape, and their identity and a sense of place are inextricably linked. However, deforestation, various relocations programs, avalanches of toxic pollutions has gone beyond being inconvenience and now has even claimed life of 15 Batik members in just 2 weeks. They are currently experiencing a devastating rate of historical loss of life. This has led to a trope of fears or collective worries about the uncontrollable global process. Batik emotional environments are now in crisis. What is psychotteratic? It is an emotion that people feel in relation to Earth and Earth emotions. Based on Earth emotions written by Glenn Elberg, new words are being introduced to describe full range of human emotions in response to the emergent state of Earth. And through creations of hopeful vocabulary with positive emotions, it can actually extract ourselves out of environmental desolations and reignite the love of life. To prevent the tribes to fall into the same trap again, the question is, as an architectural designer, what can we do to make a change? Alongside technological revolution, what we needed is an equally unprecedented cultural revolution in a way how humans relate to nature. Therefore, new memes are being introduced to invite all the generations to create a future where positive Earth emotions will prevail over the negative one, to known Symbiocene, a period to reintegrate between the human and the rest of nature. Using architectures as a means of narrative and emotions, the master plan of Kuala Kor using the concept of Symbiocene, focusing on using artistic tools, framing natural view, and allowing visitors to foster a deep love of place. It doesn't start from building a shelter, but rather from creating an experience. It's a journey to a homeostasis awareness that includes recreational, healing and spiritual, educational, and even experiential zone. And interventions like treehouse as spots of wonders, forest of light, forest biospheres, creates a new model on how humans can relate to nature. The result is a place full of beauty and atmosphere, a highly poetic space that strongly influences the emotions of visitors. With this journey created, it not only fosters a greater appreciation to the nature and understand our relationship to it, but also allow us to act with imagination, brave, and respect. Since then, the modern has forsaken the spiritual and moral obligations. The idea was to create a cultural meditative memory center and create an environmental awareness space that cater to spiritual and tourism activities. It's a building that tells stories, a new design that keeps batik integrity as a people. It's a building that making space for emotions, incorporate theoretical ideologies, narrative of earth emotions. It's a new green building typologies in a forestry that avoiding cutting down trees, a sustainable design. The building can be divided into three main parts, namely Garden of Demise, Garden of Healing, and Tower of Symbiocene. The building concept using two different contrary emotions, topophobia and eutheria, to describe a full range of human emotions from fear to hopes, wherein two different contrary spaces being complementary and interconnected, unity of opposites forms a whole. For its form development, the buildings begins to take its form from avoiding cutting off tree from sight. And then it was later connecting lines in between emotional space, resulting into a unique underground experiencing form. And lastly, using wooden lattice to unify the building in a lightweight engaging structures while emphasizing its traditional touching characters. Situated on a slope of hill, it welcomes visitors to approaching from all different directions while blending with natural surroundings. On the ground floor, it can be divided into two main spaces, which is space under the lattice that was catered to cultural programs, and organic blocks in between that are catered to healing and therapy cubicles. The transition of materiality from rammed earth, timber lattice roof to fabric, dark to light, rough to smooth, it creates a dynamically contrasting space throughout the journey. Some approach like still on ground design, open floor plan with green pocket space, tapered form cubicles that allow formations of canopy of layers, and lastly, lattice roof that allows trees to pass through, are the green design strategies that lessen the negative impact to the environment. Let's move on to the first segment of a building, Garden of Demise. It is an underground experiencing journey that can be divided into 5 main pathways, namely Garden of Demise, Path of Terra Trauma, Path of Solastagia, Path of Eutheria, and Path of Symbiocene. In the Garden of Demise, the entrance meets 15 timber blocks hanging on top of a tree trunk, commemorate the 15 batik tribes date in the era of Anthropocene. Visitors will feel entrapped and fear when they walk along the zigzag pathway floating on top of a subterranean with irregular off-balancing floor, evoking the fear and anxiety felt by the batik. In the Path of Terra Trauma, darkness, the absence of light, is part of an experience of light. The visitor will then enter to an ultimate darkness of journey with sharp angular roots in between, evoking a heavy atmosphere created by confined walls and minimal enterings. In Path of Solastagia, surrounded by tall and bold, frail and massive columns, We can't see through it, but only choose to move through it. As we come closer and closer to however, what awaited at the end is not a beautiful route, but rather a dead end. The feeling of lost and disappointed are the message that wanted to bring out. In the path of Eutheria, in this state, the division between the self and the rest of nature are dissolved, and a state of harmony is entered. It's a journey that covers man with water, earth, and light. The raw interactions with living earth give the visitor good earth feelings, and let the frame guide your way throughout the journeys. The courtyard is open towards the sky, where visitor can experience the natural light, wind, rain, and sound directly, while listening to the bird chirping sound and water cascading sounds. Lastly, leading by the lights, there was a stairs leading up to the end of a cave light, represent the continuations of batik history and give a sense of hope. So in this pathway, it's a pathway that transforms the entire structures into a discourse of batik history and lifestyles. And go on to the second segment of the building, Tower of Symbiocene. It is a continuous curving facade that offers a panoramic view of the landscapes. And it is also a meditative towers that encourage people to look inside our center and seek for personal connections. The spaces includes meditative cubicles and a central space. In the Garden of Healing, it's a garden brimming with plants that promotes a sense of well-being and hopefulness. It's also a place that introduces batik healing therapy methods, which include herb treatment and faith healing spaces. Aromatherapy, herbs gardens, and even exorcism space are being introduced. Besides healing garden and meditative space inspire us to connect with light and nature, roof thatching, dart carving, and shaman healing system, proper documentations of intangible cultural heritage are being introduced in the living museum and workshop that allowing more and more people being exposed to forest guardian histories, cultures, and traditional knowledge. All in all, it's a center that promotes cultural resilience, social inclusions, and well-being of batik tribes more broadly. It's a building that tells story, a new design that keeps batik integrity as a people. It's a building that makes space for emotions, incorporate Symbiocene's theoretical ideologies, and it's also an environment that presents a new model on how humans relate to nature. By respecting nature, we know how to best protect it, ensuring there is still much for the future generations to enjoy. When we lose the batik, we will lose an important part of our country heritage that will have helped in our fight for helping to fight our natural resources. Only through the acknowledgements and incorporations of batik emotional response towards earth and feeling of insecurities, despair and hopelessness felt by the batik, I strongly believe can the batik tribes have a continuous futures, and the human beings are able to preview over the negative feelings and entering into a new journeys of optimistic futures. To have a commitment to actions require hopes, where the actions will lead to a good outcomes. Symbiosis give us the reasons to commit to a futures that unlock humans' creative potentials and to return humanity to a great earth project of a shared life. That's all for my presentations. Thank you.